So, Michelle, aka Dizzy Arts, that's Dezzie Arts on DeviantArt, released the 14th and, unfortunately, I should say, final part of her annual Melting Me Eye series for the month of May. And basically, surprisingly, this was the bonus because I asked her basically, are we going to get a bonus? And she said that this was the bonus because she said she likes to aim for 4 parts in the month of May. And when I look back on it, kind of thought back on it, I realized, oh, that's exactly what she did because she began the month of May with part 10, the first Monday. Then she did the second Monday with part 11, the third Monday with part 12, and then last Monday with part 13. And seeing as though this is the last Monday of the month, she decided to wrap it up in a nice little package unlike last year. This kind of serves more like I guess you could say, an end to chapter 2 and a epilogue/prologue into chapter 3. That's basically what it served as. It served as an end, kind of an epilogue, to chapter 2 and a prologue to chapter 3, or vice versa, depending on how you look at it. So, how did this story go? Or at least this final part? Well, quite honestly, like I said, she basically put this together to wrap a lot of things up. Long story short, Michelle and Elizabeth, well, not Michelle, but Mi-I and Elizabeth, still in the fused form of Melissa, have returned home to Zahara. Basically, they returned home to, I think it's Mi-I's place, where Zahara is at. And they basically defuse, and they do it in a unique way. Basically, what happens is that Mi-I, shapeshifts her arm into like a spigot, if you will, a faucet, and she basically lets Elizabeth, still in her slime form, her goo form, kind of flow out into a puddle and everything. And she tells Elizabeth to pull herself together, calling her a goo girl. And Elizabeth, kind of like reveling in this feeling of being nothing but a puddle, material loses. That's basically how she puts it in these stories that I've mentioned before. She material loses her mouth on the puddle and saying to just give her a minute. And Mi-I decides to take advantage of this and stir her finger into the puddle that Elizabeth is and siphon off a little bit of the energy and everything until she finally opens the door and says, okay, let's go. Zahara's waiting for us. And so what happens is they go into the house, I should say, where Zahara's at. Zahara is making herself a little coffee or something to drink, and I think she's gotten some for the rest of them. And they go on to explain to Zahara that basically they planted a virus into Lindsay's computer, the Lindsay lady that owns the business, which is called Satana or Shanta business. It's one of them. It's basically kind of a name similar to that female genie-like game character, Satana or Shante or something like that. Anyway, they basically tell Zahara that they implanted a virus into the programs and that they do plan to go back tonight, I guess, to finish things up, check things out and stuff like that. So anyway, like I said, they let Zahara know, what they've done. And then Zahara, they ask her, they kind of notice that Zahara has something on her mind, or at least Mi-I does. And Zahara goes on to explain that, she had been, working on the formula, doing some research on it, perfecting it and stuff like that. Basically the formula that gives them the powers to become goo girls, slime girls, melty girls, whatever. And what she found out basically is because they've been taking it, for quite some time, that for her and Zahara, the formula is basically infused into their DNA now. It's infused into their DNA. And because it's infused into their DNA, they don't necessarily have to take it anymore, because there would still be a part of it inside of them, for quite some time, if not for the rest of their life. In other words, they'd still basically have the ability to, I guess you could say, shapeshift, melt down, and all that, go gooey without taking the formula. Because they've been doing it for quite some time. It's basically now part of them, and that the biology, human biology, is a lot different than the normal human biology and stuff like that. But it's also because of something else. It's also mainly because, well, put it plainly, because of an attraction that they have towards each other, a sensual, kind of harmonious, pheronome, if you will, harmonious, pheronomous, like attraction that they have towards each other, which is why they're able to come together so easily, why they're drawn to each other so easily, if you will. I mean, Zahara goes on to explain that basically the apprehension she had at when Mei first showed her what she could do and wanted to share it with her, the apprehension seemed to die down when she tried it out and she started to make that connection with Mei. In other words, that infusion, basically becoming Mara, the name of the fusion. And as she noticed the same thing from what Mei had described of Elizabeth once they did something similar to become Melissa. That basically any apprehension or distrust, Mei and Elizabeth had kind of died away. It kind of basically, fell to the wayside. And it's all because of the fact that there is an attraction between all of them. Now, Elizabeth, upon hearing this, feels a little disappointed, because she was hoping maybe the feelings that she had for Mei might be real. And let's be honest, I think it's going to be revealed that they are real. It's just that right now it feels like, the formula, the way Zahara's describing it, is only making it seem like, there's something there, like there's a sexual attraction between her and Mei, when it's actually just the formula enhancing the paranormal senses to new heights and everything. Now, Zahara goes on to mention that that's, again, basically what has caused her and Mei to have, such a connection with each other, and why it was kind of easier for that apprehension she once had originally to die off. Basically because she already found Mei attractive, and that when Mei showed her what she could do, even though she was kind of not sure about it at first, there was a part of her that wanted to do exactly that as well. She wanted to be able to shapeshift and, and become anything or melt down and stuff like that. The same with Elizabeth and everything. Anyway, their part, because this is a two-part thing in this one story, on this one bonus chapter, their part ends with Mei, holding Zahara's hand and holding Elizabeth's hand, basically comforting them, and I guess kind of indicating that, maybe, because Zahara kind of tells Elizabeth that, because when Elizabeth kind of starts feeling like a little disappointed that maybe, the attraction she had wasn't real, Zahara has to say, basically has to stop her and, stop her in her tracks and say, no, don't think like that. It's not that way. And then you have Mei, like I said, holding both the hands, stretching out one of her hands because she still has the formula in her, to Zahara, and the other to Elizabeth, in a way kind of holding them and comforting them, and maybe hinting at the fact that off screen they may end up having a little bit of intimacy, but we won't know that until next year. Nor will we know about this. Because even though this first, I guess you could say, act of the final part of the third season is done, for our three main ladies, we also have the Lindsay lady, that wants the formula. She wants the secret of the, restoration soak in Zahara's, at Zahara's Ultimate Bliss, store or business. She still wants it. And what's interesting is Lindsay is not. It's pretty much proven. It's pretty much proven in the sneak peek we got last year and everything. Lindsay is not, is not easily fooled. And obviously, like I said last year, it's hinted at that not only is she not easily fooled by someone that she can plainly see is lying and everything, but doesn't know is actually two people in one, but she can tell the lying. She's also somebody that can tell that something is off, in her office or in her place of residence, even if it doesn't seem like it. So what does she do? She ends up calling, I guess you could say, her assistant, who she had basically go and get her robe and get the things she needed from the last chapter, asking them, did you do anything in my office? And they said, no, we didn't touch anything. We only did what you told us to do. So what happens is, because even though it doesn't feel like anything is disrupted, she still gets this gut feeling. She's always learned to trust her gut, that something happened, that something occurred, and she's gonna want now better security. So what she does is she basically calls up her assistant again and says, hey, I want security cameras installed in my office immediately, because I feel that something happened, and if this happens again, I want it on camera. And that's pretty much how the story ends. Basically, she senses that something's off, but she can't really, not can't really tell, but she senses something's off, but to the untrained eye, it doesn't seem like it, is what I'm trying to say. So she basically, as I mentioned, calls up her assistant again and says, hey, I want security cameras installed in my office immediately. Something is off, or something happened here, and I want to prevent it from happening, again. So that's what she does. She basically asks for that, and that's how the chapter ends. That's how the overall final part of the third annual Melting Me Eye, season for the series of Melting Me Eye ends. That's how it ends. And what's interesting is, I mentioned, earlier, that Elizabeth and Mi-ai plan to go back as the fused form Melissa to, I guess, double check on things and everything. And what's interesting is, by the time they go back, that's when the cameras can get installed, and then that's when things might get interesting. And I'll let you know how interesting that'll be, because just like I did the previous years, I will do a predictions video, audio video, if you will, podcast. I will do a predictions one later to give you an idea from my point of view what I see happening. So be on the lookout for that. But overall, I will say that this third season, this third season of the Melting Me Eye series, I thought was okay. It started out in a way you would expect, especially at the end of part 10, and as the season progressed, it gave us development for the Elizabeth character, and obviously it's hinted at the fact that both Elizabeth, Mi-ai, and Zahara, when it's all said and done, are going to be in a very special three-way relationship before you know it. Now, what's interesting about this, and I'll talk about this more when I do the predictions, is but Michelle, aka Desi Arts, has informed somebody that commented. I think their name is Bill something on DeviantArt, but they informed somebody that commented on them, because they were asking how many more Melting Me-Eyes, like how many more Mondays of Melting Me-Eye do we got to go? And Michelle, aka Desi Arts, has informed this person that she plans to wrap up the story in 2024. So basically, Michelle's plan is to wrap up this series next year and thus give us basically a 4-chapter series or a 4-part series. Now, what's interesting is she did kind of in the same comment, on the same reply to the same, in a reply to the same commenter, she basically said that even though she's going to plan to wrap it up next year, she also plans to maybe include these characters in stories outside of the Melting Mi series. Like we'll get Mi, we'll get Sahara, we'll get Elizabeth, but we'll get them in different stories. Like we could get Elizabeth in her own story spin-off, or Zahara, whoever. We could get them in their own little spin-offs throughout this year, maybe next year. But for right now, her goal is to finish up the main series by next year. That is what she's alluding to. But anyway, though, guys, I will provide the link, as usual, to her series. You can catch up on it, check it out, along with her other series. I think you will thoroughly enjoy it. And like I said, I will do a predictions video. Be on the lookout for that, because it'll come a lot sooner than you think. And until next time, guys, I will talk to y'all later. But yeah, this has been my review for Melting Mi, Part 14 and everything. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. If you've watched it, not watched it, but read it, let me know what your thoughts have been. Comment below. And until next time, I'll talk to y'all later.